The third book of Moses, commonly called Leviticus. Chapter 1. And the voice of the Lord came to Moses out of the tent of meeting, saying, Give these orders to the children of Israel. When any one of you makes an offering to the Lord, you are to take it from the cattle, from the herd or from the flock. If the offering is a burnt offering of the herd, let him give a male without a mark. He is to give it at the door of the tent of meeting so that he may be pleasing to the Lord. And he is to put his hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be taken for him, to take away his sin. And the ox is to be put to death before the Lord. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, are to take the blood and put some of it on and round the altar which is at the door of the tent of meeting. And the burnt offering is to be skinned and cut up into its parts. And Aaron's sons, the priests, are to put fire on the altar and put the wood in order on the fire. And Aaron's sons, the priests, are to put the parts, the head and the fat, in order on the wood which is on the fire on the altar, but its inside parts and its legs are to be washed with water, and it will all be burned on the altar by the priest for a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, for a sweet smell to the Lord. And if his offering is of the flock, a burnt offering of sheep or goats, let him give a male without a mark. And he is to put it to death on the north side of the altar before the Lord. And Aaron's sons, the priests, are to put some of the blood on and round the altar. And the offering is to be cut into its parts, with its head and its fat, and the priest is to put them in order on the wood which is on the fire on the altar, but the inside parts and the legs are to be washed with water, and the priest will make an offering of all of it, burning it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, for a sweet smell to the Lord. And if his offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, then he is to make his offering of doves or of young pigeons. And the priest is to take it to the altar, and after its head has been twisted off, it is to be burned on the altar, and its blood drained out on the side of the altar. And he is to take away its stomach, with its feathers, and put it down by the east side of the altar, where the burnt waste is put, and let it be broken open at the wings, but not cut in two, and let it be burned on the altar by the priest on the wood which is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire for a sweet smell to the Lord. Chapter 2. And when anyone makes a meal offering to the Lord, let his offering be of the best meal, with oil on it and perfume, and let him take it to Aaron's sons, the priests, and having taken in his hand some of the meal and of the oil, with all the perfume, let him give it to the priest to be burned on the altar, as a sign, an offering made by fire, for a sweet smell to the Lord. And the rest of the meal offering will be for Aaron and his sons. It is most holy among the Lord's fire offerings. And when you give meal offering cooked in the oven, let it be of unleavened cakes of the best meal mixed with oil, or thin unleavened cakes covered with oil. And if you give a meal offering cooked on a flat plate, let it be of the best meal, unleavened and mixed with oil. Let it be broken into bits, and put oil on it. It is a meal offering. And if your offering is of meal cooked in fat over the fire, let it be made of the best meal mixed with oil. And you are to give the meal offering made of these things to the Lord, and let the priest take it to the altar. And he is to take from the meal offering a part, for a sign, burning it on the altar, an offering made by fire for a sweet smell to the Lord. And the rest of the meal offering will be for Aaron and his sons. It is most holy among the Lord's fire offerings. No meal offering which you give to the Lord is to be made with leaven. No leaven or honey is to be burned as an offering made by fire to the Lord. You may give them as an offering of firstfruits to the Lord, but they are not to go up as a sweet smell on the altar. And every meal offering is to be salted with salt. Your meal offering is not to be without the salt of the agreement of your God. With all your offerings give salt. And if you give a meal offering of firstfruits to the Lord, give, as your offering of firstfruits, new grain, made dry with fire, crushed new grain, and put oil on it and perfume. It is a meal offering, and part of the meal of the offering and part of the oil and all the perfume is to be burned for a sign by the priest. It is an offering made by fire to the Lord. Chapter 3. And if his offering is given for a peace offering, if he gives of the herd, male or female, let him give it without any mark on it, before the Lord. And he is to put his hand on the head of his offering and put it to death at the door of the tent of meeting, and Aaron's sons, the priests, are to put some of the blood on and round the altar. And he is to give of the peace offering, as an offering made by fire to the Lord, the fat covering the inside parts and all the fat on the inside parts, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, which is by the top part of the legs, and the fat joining the liver and the kidneys, he is to take away, that it may be burned by Aaron's sons on the altar, on the burnt offering which is on the wood on the fire. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet smell to the Lord. And if what he gives for a peace offering to the Lord is of the flock, let him give a male or female, without any mark on it. If his offering is a lamb, then let it be placed before the Lord, and he is to put his hand on the head of his offering and put it to death before the tent of meeting, and Aaron's sons are to put some of its blood on and round the altar. And of the peace offering, let him give an offering made by fire to the Lord, the fat of it, all the fat tail. He is to take away near the backbone, and the fat covering the inside parts and all the fat on the inside parts, and the 2 kidneys, with the fat on them, which is by the top part of the legs, and the fat joining the liver and the kidneys, he is to take away, that it may be burned by the priest on the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire to the Lord. And if his offering is a goat, then let it be placed before the Lord, and let him put his hand on the head of it and put it to death before the tent of meeting. And the sons of Aaron are to put some of its blood on and round the altar. And of it let him make his offering, an offering made by fire to the Lord, the fat covering the inside parts and all the fat on the inside parts, and the 2 kidneys, with the fat on them, which is by the top part of the legs, and the fat joining the liver and the kidneys, let him take away, that it may be burned by the priest on the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire for a sweet smell. All the fat is the Lord's. Let it be an order forever, through all your generations, in all your houses, that you are not to take fat or blood for food. Chapter 4. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to the children of Israel, These are the offerings of anyone who does wrong through error, doing any of the things which by the Lord's order are not to be done. If the chief priest by doing wrong becomes a cause of sin to the people, then let him give to the Lord for the sin which he has done, an ox, without any mark, for a sin offering. And he is to take the ox to the door of the tent of meeting before the Lord, and put his hand on its head and put it to death before the Lord. And the chief priest is to take some of its blood and take it to the tent of meeting, and the priest is to put his finger in the blood, shaking drops of it before the Lord 7 times, in front of the veil of the holy place. And the priest is to put some of the blood on the horns of the altar on which perfume is burned before the Lord in the tent of meeting, draining out all the rest of the blood of the ox at the base of the altar of burnt offering which is at the door of the tent of meeting. And he is to take away all the fat of the ox of the sin offering, the fat covering the inside parts and all the fat of the inside parts, and the 2 kidneys, with the fat on them, which is by the top part of the legs, and the fat joining the liver and the kidneys, he is to take away, as it is taken from the ox of the peace offering, and it is to be burned by the priest on the altar of burnt offerings. And the skin of the ox and all its flesh, with its head and its legs and its inside parts and its waist, all the ox, he is to take away outside the circle of the tents into a clean place where the burned waste is put, and there it is to be burned on wood with fire. And if all the people of Israel do wrong, without anyone's knowledge, if they have done any of the things which by the Lord's order are not to be done, causing sin to come on them, when the sin which they have done comes to light, then let all the people give an ox for a sin offering, and take it before the tent of meeting. And let the chiefs of the people put their hands on its head before the Lord, and put the ox to death before the Lord. And the priest is to take some of its blood to the tent of meeting, and put his finger in the blood, shaking drops of the blood 7 times before the Lord in front of the veil. And he is to put some of the blood on the horns of the altar which is before the Lord in the tent of meeting, and all the rest of the blood is to be drained out at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the door of the tent of meeting. And he is to take off all its fat, burning it on the altar. Let him do with the ox as he did with the ox of the sin offering, and the priest will take away their sin and they will have forgiveness. Then let the ox be taken away outside the tent circle, that it may be burned as the other ox was burned. It is the sin offering for all the people. If a ruler does wrong, and in error does any of the things which, by the order of the Lord his God, are not to be done, causing sin to come on him, when the sin which he has done is made clear to him, let him give for his offering a goat, a male without any mark. And he is to put his hand on the head of a goat and put it to death in the place where they put to death the burnt offering before the Lord. It is a sin offering. And the priest is to take some of the blood of the offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, draining out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. And all the fat of it is to be burned on the altar like the fat of the peace offering, and the priest will take away his sin and he will have forgiveness. And if any one of the common people does wrong in error, doing any of the things which the Lord has given orders are not to be done, causing sin to come on him, when the sin which he has done is made clear to him, then he is to give for his offering a goat, a female without any mark, for the sin which he has done. And he is to put his hand on the head of the sin offering and put it to death in the place where they put to death the burnt offering. And the priest is to take some of the blood with his finger, and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and all the rest of its blood is to be drained out at the base of the altar. And let all its fat be taken away, as the fat is taken away from the peace offerings, and let it be burned on the altar by the priest for a sweet smell to the Lord, and the priest will take away his sin and he will have forgiveness. And if he gives a lamb as his sin offering, let it be a female without any mark. And he is to put his hand on the head of the offering and put it to death for a sin offering in the place where they put to death the burnt offering. And the priest is to take some of the blood of the offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and all the rest of the blood is to be drained out at the base of the altar, and let him take away all its fat, as the fat is taken away from the lamb of the peace offerings, and let it be burned by the priest on the altar among the offerings made by fire to the Lord. And the priest will take away his sin and he will have forgiveness. Chapter 5. And if anyone does wrong by saying nothing when he is put under oath as a witness of something he has seen or had knowledge of, then he will be responsible. If anyone becomes unclean through touching unconsciously some unclean thing, such as the dead body of an unclean beast or of unclean cattle or of any unclean animal which goes flat on the earth, he will be responsible. Or if he becomes unclean through touching unconsciously any unclean thing of man, whatever it may be, when it is made clear to him he will be responsible. Or if anyone, without thought, takes an oath to do evil or to do good, whatever he says without thought, with an oath, having no knowledge of what he is doing, when it becomes clear to him, he will be responsible for any of these things. And whoever is responsible for any such sin, let him make a statement openly of his wrongdoing, and take to the Lord the offering for the wrong which he has done, a female from the flock, a lamb or a goat, for a sin offering, and the priest will take away his sin. And if he has not money enough for a lamb, then let him give, for his offering to the Lord, 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a sin offering and one for a burnt offering. And let him take them to the priest, who will first give the sin offering, twisting off its head from its neck, but not cutting it in two. And he is to put drops of the blood of the offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood is to be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. And the second is for a burnt offering, in agreement with the law, and the priest will take away his sin and he will have forgiveness. But if he has not enough money for 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, then let him give, for the sin he has done, the 10th part of an ephah of the best meal, for a sin offering. Let him put no oil on it, and no perfume, for it is a sin offering. and let him come to the priest with it, and the priest will take some of it in his hand, to be burned on the altar as a sign, among the offerings of the Lord made by fire. It is a sin offering, and the priest will take away his sin and he will have forgiveness, and the rest of the offering will be the priest's, in the same way as the meal offering. And the Lord said to Moses, if anyone is untrue, sinning in error in connection with the holy things of the Lord, let him take his offering to the Lord, a male sheep from the flock, without any mark, of the value fixed by you in silver by shekels, by the scale of the holy place. And he is to make payment to the priest for what he has done wrong in relation to the holy thing, together with a fifth part of its value in addition, and the priest will take away his sin by the sheep of his offering, and he will have forgiveness. And if anyone does wrong, and does any of the things which the Lord has given orders are not to be done, though he has no knowledge of it, still he is in the wrong and he is responsible. Let him come to the priest with a sheep, a male without any mark out of the flock, of the value fixed by you, as an offering for his error, and the priest will take away the sin which he did in error, and he will have forgiveness. It is an offering for his error, he is certainly responsible before the Lord. Chapter 6. And the Lord said to Moses, if anyone does wrong, and is untrue to the Lord, acting falsely to his neighbor in connection with something put in his care, or something given for a debt, or has taken away anything by force, or has been cruel to his neighbor, or has taken a false oath about the loss of something which he has come across by chance, if a man has done any of these evil things, causing sin to come on him, then he will have to give back the thing he took by force or got by cruel acts, or the goods which were put in his care, or the thing he came on by chance, or anything about which he took a false oath. He will have to give it all back, with the addition of a fifth of its value, to him whose property it is, when he has been judged to be in the wrong. Then let him take to the Lord the offering for his wrongdoing, giving to the priest for his offering, a male sheep from the flock, without any mark, of the value fixed by you, and the priest will take away his sin from before the Lord, and he will have forgiveness for whatever crime he has done. And the Lord said to Moses, give orders to Aaron and to his sons, saying, this is the law for the burnt offering. The offering is to be on the firewood on the altar all night till the morning, and the fire of the altar is to be kept burning. And the priest is to put on his linen robes and his linen trousers, and take up what is over of the offering after it has been burned on the altar, and put it by the side of the altar. Then having taken off his linen robes and put on other clothing, he is to take it away into a clean place, outside the tent circle. The fire on the altar is to be kept burning, it is never to go out. Every morning the priest is to put wood on it, placing the burnt offering in order on it, and there the fat of the peace offering is to be burned. Let the fire be kept burning on the altar at all times, it is never to go out. And this is the law for the meal offering, it is to be offered to the Lord before the altar by the sons of Aaron. The priest is to take in his hand some of the meal offering and of the oil of it, and all the perfume on it, burning it on the altar as a sign, for a sweet smell to the Lord. And whatever is over Aaron and his sons may have for their food, taking it without leaven in a holy place, in the open space of the tent of meeting they may take a meal of it. It is not to be cooked with leaven. I have given it to them as their part of the offerings made by fire to me. It is most holy, as are the sin offerings and the offerings for error. Every male among the children of Aaron may have it for food, it is their right forever through all your generations, from the offerings made by fire to the Lord. Anyone touching them will be holy. And the Lord said to Moses, this is the offering which Aaron and his sons are to make to the Lord on the day when he is made a priest, the 10th part of an ephah of the best meal for a meal offering forever, half of it in the morning and half in the evening. Let it be made with oil on a flat plate. When it is well mixed and cooked, let it be broken and taken in as a meal offering, for a sweet smell to the Lord. And the same offering is to be given by that one of his sons who takes his place as priest, by an order forever. All of it is to be burned before the Lord. Every meal offering offered for the priest is to be completely burned. Nothing of it is to be taken for food. And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron and his sons, this is the law for the sin offering. The sin offering is to be put to death before the Lord in the same place as the burnt offering. It is most holy. The priest by whom it is offered for sin is to take it for his food in a holy place, in the open space of the tent of meeting. Anyone touching the flesh of it will be holy, and if any of the blood is dropped on any clothing, the thing on which the blood has been dropped is to be washed in a holy place. But the vessel of earth in which the flesh was cooked is to be broken, or if a brass vessel was used, it is to be rubbed clean and washed out with water. Every male among the priests may take it for his food. It is most holy. No sin offering, the blood of which is taken into the tent of meeting, to take away sin in the holy place, may be used for food. It is to be burned with fire. Chapter 7. And this is the law of the offering for wrongdoing. It is most holy. They are to put to death the offering for wrongdoing in the same place as the burnt offering, and the priest is to put the blood on and round the altar. And all the fat of it, the fat tail and the fat covering the inside parts, is to be given as an offering. And the 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, which is by the top of the legs, and the fat joining the liver and the kidneys, he is to take away. They are to be burned by the priest on the altar for an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is an offering for wrongdoing. Every male among the priests may have it as food in a holy place. It is most holy. As is the sin offering, so is the offering for wrongdoing. There is one law for them. The priest who makes the offering to take away sin, he is to have it. And the priest offering any man's burnt offering for him, may have the skin of the burnt offering which is offered by him. And every meal offering which is cooked in the oven and everything made in a cooking pot or on a flat plate, is for the priest by whom it is offered. And every meal offering, mixed with oil or dry, is for all the sons of Aaron in equal measure. And this is the law for the peace offerings offered to the Lord. If any man gives his offering as a praise offering, then let him give with the offering unleavened cakes mixed with oil and thin unleavened cakes covered with oil and cakes of the best meal well mixed with oil. With his peace offering let him give cakes of leavened bread, as a praise offering. And let him give one out of every offering to be lifted up before the Lord, that it may be for the priest who puts the blood of the peace offering on the altar. And the flesh of the praise offering is to be taken as food on the day when it is offered. No part of it may be kept till the morning. But if his offering is made because of an oath or given freely, it may be taken as food on the day when it is offered, and the rest may be used up on the day after. But if any of the flesh of the offering is still unused on the 3rd day, it is to be burned with fire. And if any of the flesh of the peace offering is taken as food on the 3rd day, it will not be pleasing to God and will not be put to the account of him who gives it. It will be unclean and a cause of sin to him who takes it as food. And flesh touched by any unclean thing may not be taken for food, it is to be burned with fire. And as for the flesh of the peace offerings, everyone who is clean may take it as food, but he who is unclean when he takes as food the flesh of the peace offerings, which are the Lord's, will be cut off from his people. And anyone who, after touching any unclean thing of man or an unclean beast or any unclean and disgusting thing, takes as food the flesh of the peace offerings, which are the Lord's, will be cut off from his people. And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to the children of Israel, you are not to take any fat of ox or sheep or goat for food, and the fat of that which comes to a natural death, and the fat of that which is attacked by beasts, may be used for other purposes, but not in any way for food. For anyone who takes as food the fat of any beast of which men make an offering by fire to the Lord, will be cut off from his people. And you are not to take for food any blood of bird or of beast in any of your houses. Whoever takes any blood for food will be cut off from his people." And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to the children of Israel, he who makes a peace offering to the Lord, is to give an offering to the Lord out of his peace offering. he himself is to take to the Lord the offering made by fire, even the fat with the breast, so that the breast may be waved for a wave offering before the Lord. And the fat is to be burned by the priest on the altar, but the breast is for Aaron and his sons. And the right leg you are to give to the priest for an offering to be lifted up out of what is given for your peace offerings. That man, among the sons of Aaron, by whom the blood of the peace offering and the fat are offered, is to have the right leg for his part. For the breast which is waved and the right leg which is lifted up on high I have taken from the children of Israel, from their peace offerings, and have given them to Aaron the priest and to his sons as their right forever from the children of Israel. This is the holy part given to Aaron and to his sons, out of the offerings made to the Lord by fire, on the day when they were made priests before the Lord, which the Lord said the children of Israel were to give them, on the day when he made them his priests. It is their right forever from generation to generation. These are the laws for the burnt offering, the meal offering, and the offering for wrongdoing, and for the making of priests, and for the giving of peace offerings, as they were given by the Lord to Moses on Mount Sinai, on the day when the Lord gave orders to the children of Israel to make their offerings to the Lord, in the wasteland of Sinai. Chapter 8. And the Lord said to Moses, Take Aaron, and his sons with him, and the robes and the holy oil and the ox of the sin offering and the 2 male sheep and the basket of unleavened bread, and let all the people come together at the door of the tent of meeting. And Moses did as the Lord said, and all the people came together at the door of the tent of meeting. And Moses said to the people, This is what the Lord has given orders to be done. Then Moses took Aaron and his sons, and after washing them with water, he put the coat on him, making it tight with its band, and then the robe, and over it the ephod, with its band of needlework to keep it in place. And he put the priest's bag on him, and in the bag he put the Urim and Thummim. And on his head he put the headdress, and in front of the headdress the plate of gold, the holy crown, as the Lord gave orders to Moses. And Moses took the holy oil and put it on the house and on all the things in it, to make them holy. 7 times he put oil on the altar and on all its vessels, and on the washing basin and its base, to make them holy. And some of the oil he put on Aaron's head, to make him holy. Then he took Aaron's sons, clothing them with the coats, and putting the bands round them, and the headdresses on their heads, as the Lord had given him orders. And he took the ox of the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons put their hands on the head of the ox, and he put it to death. And Moses took the blood and put it on the horns of the altar and round it with his finger, and made the altar clean, draining out the blood at the base of the altar. So he made it holy, taking away what was unclean. And he took all the fat on the inside parts, and the fat on the liver, and the 2 kidneys with their fat, to be burned on the altar. But the ox, with its skin and its flesh and its waist, was burned with fire outside the tent circle, as the Lord gave orders to Moses. And he put the male sheep of the burnt offering before the Lord, and Aaron and his sons put their hands on its head, and he put it to death. And Moses put some of the blood on and round the altar. And when the sheep had been cut into parts, the head and the parts and the fat were burned by Moses. And the inside parts and the legs were washed with water, and all the sheep was burned by Moses on the altar. It was a burnt offering for a sweet smell. It was an offering made by fire to the Lord, as the Lord gave orders to Moses. And he put the other sheep before the Lord, the sheep with which they were made priests. And Aaron and his sons put their hands on the head of the sheep, and he put it to death. And Moses took some of the blood and put it on the point of Aaron's right ear and on the thumb of his right hand and on the great toe of his right foot. Then he took Aaron's sons, and Moses put some of the blood on the point of their right ears and on the thumbs of their right hands and on the great toes of their right feet. And Moses put the blood on and round the altar. And he took the fat, and the fat tail, and the fat on the inside parts, and the fat on the liver, and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and the right leg. And out of the basket of unleavened bread which was before the Lord he took 1 unleavened cake, and 1 cake of bread with oil on it, and 1 thin cake, and put them on the fat and on the right leg, and he put them all on the hands of Aaron and on the hands of his sons, waving them for a wave offering before the Lord. And Moses took them from their hands, and they were burned on the altar on the burnt offering, as a priest's offering for a sweet smell, an offering made by fire to the Lord. And Moses took the breast, waving it for a wave offering before the Lord. It was Moses' part of the sheep of the priest's offering, as the Lord gave orders to Moses. And Moses took some of the holy oil and of the blood which was on the altar and put it on Aaron and on his robes, and on his sons and on his sons' robes, and made Aaron holy, and his robes and his sons' robes with him. And Moses said to Aaron and to his sons, "The flesh is to be cooked in water at the door of the tent of meeting, and there you are to take it as food, together with the bread in the basket, as I have given orders, saying, it is the food of Aaron and his sons. And that which is over of the flesh and of the bread is to be burned with fire. And you are not to go out from the door of the tent of meeting for 7 days, till the days for making you priests are ended, for this will be the work of 7 days. What has been done this day has been ordered by the Lord to take away your sin. And you are to keep watch for the Lord at the door of the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days, so that death may not come to you, for so he has given me orders." And Aaron and his sons did all the things about which the Lord had given orders through Moses. Chapter 9. And on the 8th day Moses sent for Aaron and his sons and the responsible men of Israel, and he said to Aaron, "Take a young ox for a sin offering and a male sheep for a burnt offering, without a mark, and make an offering of them before the Lord. And say to the children of Israel, Take a he-goat for a sin offering, and a young ox and a lamb, in their first year, without any mark on them, for a burnt offering, and an ox and a male sheep for peace offerings, to be put to death before the Lord, and a meal offering mixed with oil. For this day you are to see the Lord." And they took the things ordered by Moses, before the tent of meeting. And all the people came near, waiting before the Lord. And Moses said, "This is what the Lord has said you are to do, and you will see the glory of the Lord." And Moses said to Aaron, "Come near to the altar and make your sin offering and your burnt offering to take away your sin and the sin of the people, and make the people's offering to take away their sin, as the Lord has given orders." So Aaron came near to the altar and put to death the ox for the sin offering for himself, and the sons of Aaron gave him the blood, and he put his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar, draining out the blood at the base of the altar. But the fat and the kidneys and the fat on the liver of the sin offering were burned by him on the altar as the Lord gave orders to Moses. And the flesh and the skin were burned with fire outside the tent circle. And he put to death the burnt offering, and Aaron's sons gave him the blood, and he put some of it on and round the altar, and they gave him the parts of the burnt offering, in their order, and the head, to be burned on the altar, and the inside parts and the legs, when they had been washed with water, were burned on the burnt offering on the altar. And he made an offering for the people, and took the goat to the sin offering for the people, and put it to death, offering it for sin, in the same way as the first. And he took the burnt offering, offering it in the ordered way, and he put the meal offering before the Lord, and taking some of it in his hand he had it burned on the altar, separately from the burnt offering of the morning. And he put to death the ox and the sheep, which were the peace offerings for the people, and Aaron's sons gave him the blood, and he put some of it on and round the altar. And as for the fat of the ox and the fat tail of the sheep and the fat covering the inside parts and the kidneys and the fat on the liver, they put the fat on the breasts, and the fat was burned on the altar. And Aaron took the breasts and the right leg, waving them for a wave offering before the Lord, as Moses gave orders. And Aaron, lifting up his hands to the people, gave them a blessing. And he came down from offering the sin offering, and the burnt offering, and the peace offerings. And Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting, and came out and gave the people a blessing, and the glory of the Lord was seen by all the people. And fire came out from before the Lord, burning up the offering on the altar and the fat. And when all the people saw it, they gave a loud cry, falling down on their faces. Chapter 10. And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took their vessels and put fire in them and perfume, burning strange fire before their Lord, which he had not given them orders to do. And fire came out from before their Lord, burning them up and causing their destruction before the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord said, I will be holy in the eyes of all those who come near to me, and I will be honored before all the people." And Aaron said nothing. And Moses sent for Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the brother of Aaron's father, and said to them, "Come near and take your brothers away from before the holy place, outside the tent circle." So they came and took them, in their coats, outside the tent circle, as Moses had said. And Moses said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Itamar, his sons, "Do not let your hair be loose, and give no signs of grief, so that death may not overtake you, and his wrath come on all the people, but let there be weeping among your brothers and all the house of Israel for this burning of the Lord's fire, and do not go out from the door of the tent of meeting, or death will come to you, for the holy oil of the Lord is on you." And they did as Moses said. And the Lord said to Aaron, "Take no wine, or strong drink, you or your sons with you, when you go into the tent of meeting, that it may not be the cause of death to you. This is an order forever through all your generations. And make a division between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean, teaching the children of Israel all the laws which the Lord has given them by the hand of Moses." And Moses said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Itamar, his sons who are still living, "Take the rest of the meal offering from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and take it for your food, without leaven, at the side of the altar, for it is most holy. It is to be for your food in a holy place, because it is your right and your son's right, from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, for so am I ordered. And the breast which is waved and the leg which is lifted up on high, you are to take as your food in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you, for they are given to you as your right and your son's right, from the peace offerings of the children of Israel. Let them take the breast which is waved and the leg which is lifted up on high, with the fat of the burnt offering, to be waved for a wave offering before their Lord. And this will be for you and for your sons with you, for a right forever, as the Lord has given orders." And Moses was looking for the goat of the sin offering, but it was burned, and he was angry with Eleazar and Itamar, the sons of Aaron, who are still living, saying, "Why did you not make a meal of the sin offering in the holy place? For it is most holy, and he has given it to you, so that the sin of the people may be put on it, to take away their sin before the Lord. See, its blood was not taken into the holy place. Certainly it was right for you to have taken it as food in the holy place, as I gave orders." And Aaron said to Moses, "You have seen that today they have made their sin offering and their burnt offering before their Lord, and such things as these have come on me. If I had taken the sin offering as food today, would it have been pleasing to the Lord?" And after hearing this, Moses was no longer angry. Chapter 11. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Say to the children of Israel, these are the living things which you may have for food among all the beasts on the earth. You may have as food any beast which has a division in the horn of its foot, and whose food comes back into its mouth to be crushed again. But, at the same time, of those beasts, you may not take for food the camel, because its food comes back but the horn of its foot is not parted in two. It is unclean to you. And the rock badger, for the same reason, is unclean to you. And the hare, because the horn of its foot is not parted in two, is unclean to you. And the pig is unclean to you, because through the horn of its foot is parted, its food does not come back. Their flesh may not be used for food, and their dead bodies may not even be touched, they are unclean to you. These you may have for food of all things living in the water, anything living in the water, in the seas or rivers, which has special parts for swimming and skin formed of thin plates, may be used for food. All other things living and moving in the water, in the sea or in the rivers, are a disgusting thing to you. They may not be used for food, and their dead bodies are disgusting to you. Anything in the water which has no special parts for swimming and no thin plates on its skin is disgusting to you. And among birds these are to be disgusting to you, and not to be used for food: the eagle and the gier eagle and the osprey, and the kite and the falcon, and birds of that sort, every raven, and birds of that sort, and the ostrich and the night hawk and the sea hawk, and birds of that sort, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl, and the water hen and the pelican and the vulture, the stork and the heron, and birds of that sort, and the hoopoe and the bat. Every winged four-footed thing which goes on the earth is disgusting to you. But of the winged four-footed things, those which have long legs for jumping on the earth you may have for food, such as all the different sorts of locust. But all other winged four-footed things which go on the earth are disgusting to you. By these you will be made unclean. Anyone touching their dead bodies will be unclean till evening. Whoever takes away the dead body of one of them is to have his clothing washed, and will be unclean till evening. Every beast, in the horn of whose foot there is not a complete division, and whose food does not come back, is unclean to you. Anyone touching one of these will be unclean. Any four-footed beast which goes on the ball of its foot is unclean to you. Anyone touching the dead body of one of these will be unclean till evening. Anyone who takes away the dead body of one of these is to have his clothing washed and be unclean till evening. And these are unclean to you among things which go low down on the earth: the weasel and the mouse and the great lizard, and animals of that sort, and the ferret and the land crocodile and the lizard and the sand lizard and the chameleon. All these are unclean to you. Anyone touching them when they are dead will be unclean till evening. The dead body of any of these, falling on anything, will make that thing unclean. If it is any vessel of wood, or clothing, or skin, or bag, whatever it is, if it is used for any purpose, it will have to be put into water, and will be unclean till evening. After that it will be clean. And if one of them gets into any vessel of earth, whatever is in the vessel will be unclean, and the vessel will have to be broken. Any food in it, and anything on which water from it comes, will be unclean. Any drink taken from such a vessel will be unclean. Any part of the dead body of one of these, falling on anything, will make it unclean. If it is an oven or a cooking pot, it will have to be broken. They are unclean and will be unclean to you. But at the same time a fountain or a place where water is stored for use will be clean. But anyone touching their dead bodies will be unclean. If any part of the dead body of one of these gets onto any seed for planting, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and any part of the dead body gets onto it, it will be unclean to you. And if any beast which may be used for food comes to a natural death, anyone touching its dead body will be unclean till evening. And he who makes use of any part of its body for food is to have his clothing washed and be unclean till evening. And anyone taking away its body is to have his clothing washed and be unclean till evening. Everything which goes flat on its body on the earth is disgusting, and is not to be used for food. Whatever goes on its stomach or on 4 feet or has a great number of feet, even all those going flat on the earth, may not be used for food, for they are disgusting. You are not to make yourselves disgusting with anything which goes about flat on the earth. You may not make yourselves unclean with them, in such a way that you are not holy to me. For I am the Lord your God. For this reason, make and keep yourselves holy, for I am holy. You are not to make yourselves unclean with any sort of thing which goes about flat on the earth. For I am the Lord, who took you out of the land of Egypt, to be your God. So be you holy, for I am holy. This is the law about beasts and birds and every living thing moving in the waters, and every living thing which goes flat on the earth, marking out the unclean from the clean, and the living thing which may be used for food from that which may not. Chapter 12. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to the children of Israel, If a woman is with child and gives birth to a male child, she will be unclean for 7 days, as when she is unwell. And on the 8th day let him be given circumcision. And she will be unclean for 33 days till the flow of her blood is stopped. no holy thing may be touched by her, and she may not come into the holy place, till the days for making her clean are ended. But if she gives birth to a female child, then she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as when she is unwell, and she will not be completely clean for 66 days. And when the days are ended for making her clean for a son or a daughter, let her take to the priest at the door of the tent of meeting a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering, and the priest is to make an offering of it before the Lord and take away her sin, and she will be made clean from the flow of her blood. This is the law for a woman who gives birth to a male or a female. And if she has not money enough for a lamb, then let her take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering, and the priest will take away her sin and she will be clean. Chapter 13. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, if a man has on his skin a growth or a mark or a white place, and it becomes the disease of a leper, let him be taken to Aaron the priest, or to one of the priests, his sons, and if, when the priest sees the mark on his skin, the hair on the place is turned white and the mark seems to go deeper than the skin, it is the mark of a leper, and the priest, after looking at him, will say that he is unclean. But if the mark on his skin is white, and does not seem to go deeper than the skin, and the hair on it is not turned white, then the priest will keep him shut up for 7 days, and the priest is to see him on the 7th day, and if, in his opinion, the place on his skin has not become worse and is not increased in size, then the priest will keep him shut up for 7 days more, and the priest is to see him again on the 7th day, and if the mark is less bright and is not increased on his skin, then let the priest say that he is clean, it is only a skin mark, and after his clothing has been washed he will be clean. But if the size of the mark on his skin is increased after he has been seen by the priest, let him go to the priest again, and if, after looking at him, he sees that the mark is increased in his skin, let the priest say that he is unclean, he is a leper. When the disease of a leper is seen on a man, let him be taken to the priest, and if the priest sees that there is a white growth on the skin, and the hair is turned white, and there is diseased flesh in the growth, it is an old disease in the skin of his flesh, and the priest will say that he is unclean, he will not have to be shut up, for he is clearly unclean. And if the disease comes out all over his skin, from his head to his feet, as far as the priest is able to see, and if the priest sees that all his flesh is covered with the leper's disease, the priest will say that he is clean, it is all turned white, he is clean. But whenever diseased flesh is seen on him, he will be unclean. And when the priest sees the diseased flesh he will say that he is unclean, the diseased flesh is unclean, he is a leper. Or if the diseased flesh is turned again and changed to white, then he is to come to the priest, and the priest will see him, and if the place is turned white, then the priest will say that he is free from the disease. And if a bad place has came out on the skin and is well again, and on the same place there is a white growth of a bright mark, red and white, then let the priest see it, and after looking at it, if it seems to go deeper than the skin, and the hair on it is turned white, then the priest will say that the man is unclean, it is the leper's disease, it has come out in the bad place. But if, after looking at it, he sees that there are no white hairs on it, and it is not deeper than the skin, and it is not very bright, then let the priest keep him shut up for 7 days, and if it is increasing on the skin, the priest will say that he is unclean, it is a disease. But if the bright mark keeps in the same place and gets no greater, it is the mark of the old wound, and the priest will say that he is clean. Or if there is a burn on the skin of the flesh, and if the diseased flesh in the burn becomes a bright place, red and white or white, the priest is to see it, and if the hair on the bright place is turned white and it seems to go deeper than the skin, he is a leper, it has come out in the burn, and the priest will say that he is unclean, it is the leper's disease. But if, after looking at it, the priest sees that there is no white hair on the bright place, and it is not deeper than the skin, and is not very bright, Then let the priest keep him shut up for 7 days, and the priest is to see him again on the 7th day. If it is increased in the skin, then the priest will say that he is unclean, it is the leper's disease. And if the bright place keeps the same size and gets no greater on the skin, but is less bright, it is the effect of the burn, and the priest will say that he is clean, it is the mark of the burn. And when a man or a woman has a disease on the head, or in the hair of the chin, then the priest is to see the diseased place, and if it seems to go deeper than the skin, and if there is thin yellow hair in it, then the priest will say that he is unclean, he has the mark of the leper's disease on his head or in the hair of his chin. And after looking at the diseased place, if it does not seem to go deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest will have him shut up for 7 days, and on the 7th day the priest will see the place, and if it is not increased, and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not seem to go deeper than the skin, then his hair is to be cut off, but not on the diseased place, and he is to be shut up for 7 days more, and on the 7th day the priest will see the place, and if it is not increased, and does not seem to go deeper than the skin, the priest will say that he is clean, and after his clothing has been washed he will be clean. But if the disease in his skin becomes worse after he has been made clean, then the priest is to see him, and if the mark is increased, the priest, without looking for the yellow hair, will say that he is unclean. But if, in his opinion, the growth is stopped, and black hair has come up on it, the disease has gone, he is clean, and the priest will say that he is clean. And if a man or a woman has bright marks on the skin of their flesh, that is, bright white marks, then the priest is to see them, and if the white marks on their skin are not very bright, it is a skin disease which has come out on the skin, he is clean. And if a man's hair has come out and he has no hair, still he is clean. And if the hair has gone from the front part of his head, so that he has no hair there, still he is clean. But if, on his head or on his brow, where he has no hair, there is a red and white place, it is the disease of the leper coming out on his head or on his brow. Then if the priest sees that the growth of the disease has become red and white on his head or on his brow where there is no hair, like the mark in the skin of a leper, he is a leper and unclean. The priest is to say that he is most certainly unclean. The disease is in his head, and the leper who has the disease on him is to go about with signs of grief, with his hair loose and his mouth covered, crying, "Unclean, unclean." While the disease is on him, he will be unclean. He is unclean, let him keep by himself, living outside the tent circle. And any clothing of wool or of linen in which is the mark of the disease, if it is in the threads of the linen or of the wool, or in leather, or in anything made of skin, if there are red or green marks on the clothing, or on the leather, or in the threads of the cloth, or in anything made of skin, it is the leper's disease. Let the priest see it, and after it has been seen by the priest, the thing which is so marked is to be shut up for 7 days, and he is to see the mark on the 7th day. If the mark is increased in the clothing, or in the threads of the material, or in the leather, whatever the leather is used for, it is the disease biting into it, it is unclean. And the clothing, or the wool or linen material, or anything of leather in which is the disease, is to be burned, for the disease is biting into it, let it be burned in the fire. And if the priest sees that the mark is not increased in the clothing or in any part of the material or in the leather, then the priest will give orders for the thing on which the mark is, to be washed, and to be shut up for 7 days more. And if, after the mark has been washed, the priest sees that the color of it is not changed and it is not increased, it is to be burned in the fire. The disease is working in it, though the damage may be inside or outside. And if the priest sees that the mark is less bright after the washing, then let him have it cut out of the clothing or the leather or from the threads of the material. And if the mark is still seen in the clothing or in the threads of the material or in the leather, it is the disease coming out. The thing in which the disease is will have to be burned with fire. And the material of the clothing, or anything of skin, which has been washed, if the mark has gone out of it, let it be washed a second time and it will be clean. This is the law about the leper's disease in the thread of wool or linen material, in clothing or in anything of skin, saying how it is to be judged clean or unclean.